In order for a fossil to form, the animal must be trapped into a material. Now, it doesn't really matter what kind of material, but it's got to be trapped in some type of material. Most often, this is sediment that they're trapped into, i.e. why they have to die around water. And this process can last for thousands and thousands of years. Or possibly hundreds, depending on what material you have. The actual remains that are found generally are made of dense things like bones. What every fossil you've ever seen is minerals. Minerals have filled in that space or surrounded it, because there's three different types of fossils that we're going to talk about. So your minerals will replace the space that once remains. Replace the space. Things you already know. The soft part cannot last because it eventually decays. The only thing that left is bone. So tissues, which is why we never know if they had feathers or if they were reptile-like, or they could have had human skin. We don't know. They probably didn't know. These are the three types. There are mold fossils, cast fossils, and petrified fossils. Mold fossils, cast fossils, and petrified fossils. What do you believe is the most common?
Mold.
Pretty good answer.
I don't even know what to do with this thing.
We're going to talk about the examples. So, starting off, what do you think a mold fossil is? What do you think a
something they print, like if it's a
Yeah,
footprint, they
print.
put like some type of like I don't know, like substance in there, and it like molds up into it like hardens.
Yeah, it's like,
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know how to explain it, but
Just go ahead.
Huh?
Just go ahead.
Like if you put a footprint right now, and you put, I don't know what you can put, but like you could put like some type of glue or something, and let it sit for a little while, and then you can pull it up, and you will see like a mold. It can be your footprint.
So what about a cast fossil? What do you think a cast fossil looks like?
it's just bone, like,
What about petrified?
It's when
That's
like
the-
it's been
Like
sitting there in a
preserved?
reserve for.
Like some of them are there,
Chewed
some
on,
of them
like,
aren't.
I want to say chewed on, but like has marks on it or something like that.
These are pretty good guesses. Pretty good guesses. Starting with the mold, it is what you were talking about before. You put your foot in the ground, you raise it back up. If you are most times you will see prehistoric insects create mold fossils because they have a large or an exoskeleton. Oh, imprint in sand, sediments harden. So your eyes ain't as bad as you thought. Squint. Why don't you wear your glasses? Mm-hmm. Buy you some contacts for Christmas. Molds are usually prehistoric insects because they have hard exoskeletons. So when they die, they get pressed into the ground by sediment, and once they get, all the bones decay. Then we can make a mold. Usually when you have a mold, there are no bones because bones would get stuck.
It has to be like a footprint.
Mm.
That's not all bones.
Things that have more of a hardy exterior, like a very tough exterior. Everybody got this? Our cast fossil is when something fills in the space of a mold. The space of a mold. Now, it sounds,
it includes bones.
So it's kind of like the cast that goes on your broken bone.
it includes some bone. Kinda, yes, kinda.
Okay.
So essentially, what happens is, this is what happens when a cast mold. There's just so much dirt that piles up around it. Then you bust it out. A mold fossil is the absence of whatever made that fossil. A cast fossil actually has it. So it would be bones. It would be things that are being able to left over. So if you see something that has an empty space, that is a mold. If it has an actual fossil in it, it is a cast fossil.
And where the other one?
Petrified.
Isn't it okay because you can have petrified wood? It's been
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely don't know what that is.
Why are you acting so funky? You're gonna start from the beginning. Oh, sweet. Petrified is the slowest one of them all. It is creepily slow. This is the fossils that you've seen most dinosaurs in. They're in one of two forms. It's either a cast, because mold is the opposite. Mold is, think of the O in mold as out, like it's without. So it's not there. And cast is with. So most are going to be either cast or petrified of the fossils that you see on an everyday basis. Most of them are either cast or petrified. Petrified is just the regular, how you think a fossil is made. A bunch of rock is packed on top of it. We pull it out. Everybody got this? I know! You son of a biscuit. Much like everything else, we don't necessarily need sediment. A lot of, anybody seen Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Wasn't this the whole thing of they pulled the DNA out of the mosquito out of the amber? If you're small enough and that tree is undisturbed, amber is a good
Food source, maybe?
no, you just get stuck in it. Amber is just tree sap. Amber is just old tree sap.
So it's kind of like that stuff that comes out of the pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You get enough of it and something flies into it,
You get stuck.
it gets stuck. The reason amber, you know what? Let's test your brains. What's a good reason that amber is a good,
Cause it's sticky.
it is sticky. What doesn't it have in it?
Sugar.
Air, oxygen.
Oxygen. Oxygen decays a lot of things. Oxygen decays you. In about 80 years, it'll kill you.
You said 80 or 18?
80.
We say it's a kid, you know, 80 years.
It oxidizes, so it, pulls out. I did not know that. The woolly mammoth, which they're actually trying to bring back.
Why?
What do you mean bring back? Like,
You heard what I said. They're going to bring it back.
That's Jurassic Park.
They have pulled. They found an iceberg with a surprisingly well preserved woolly mammoth. They've extracted the DNA, and they're going to try to see if they can't get some of its DNA to cross over with elephants, so we can make like a little hybrid.
Why?
Crazy.
Because we can.
But then it's gonna be like.
They're gonna be walking around someone else with these little horn things.
But
Probably.
you can't. But they're
It's
not
gonna be
used
bigger,
to,
though.
Like elephants and mammoths live in two different climates. Like,
Bingo.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, what was it? Geographic actually? Maybe.
their DNA, they can't.
You wouldn't know it'd be geographic.
Because
Yeah, it'd be
like, they
cheaper.
can't, why would you make a hybrid? Like what?
Because
Because we can.
what happens if we make a hybrid of anything? Is it healthier or unhealthy?
It should be.
Healthy.
It's healthier.
It's
It's
healthy.
healthier.
But what
But
environment
it
would
can't
it
live.
live in?
Yeah, but-
exactly.
Where would it live?
That would live
That
in
live
like.
in ice.
Like
Yeah,
Ann
that
out
would-
Bingo. Now,
elephants live off in, like,
let me ask you this question. Why would it struggle to live in ice?
Because it wouldn't. It probably wouldn't have as much hair as that one does.
It does have about the same amount of hair. But look at the color of its hair. What color is it?
Brown.
Brown, black.
What color is the polar ice caps?
White.
White. Does he blend in?
No.
He has no useful camouflage.
So,
That's my idea of what's going to happen is they're going to eventually bring them back, but they won't be able to survive. So they're going to have to move from, they're probably going to go to the poles first because it's the coldest. But then they're going to move to upper parts of Canada, maybe the southern tip of South America, because it's colder there, but you still have some type of vegetation to blend in with that.
Then why wouldn't they just put them there instead of?
You can't just
That's not
place
how
it.
works.
Well, they're
It's gonna
placing it at the poles.
Okay, you see that brain in there? That brain for millions and millions of years has been trained to go to the Antarctic and the Arctic pole. When you get there, they're going to realize that it's, one, the ice caps are melted, so there's not going to be as much ice, so they can't roam as freely. And two, polar bears are probably going to eat them.
Eat them.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
so-
because they're not used to like being in
Well,
that
what if
type
they
of
can-
They're an
environment.
herbivore.
What about, they don't use their,
Oh, they eat
They use it to
plants.
defend themselves.
And
Yes.
how are they going to, like, if they're bringing it back to life, right? They have to have a male and a female for a breed. How are they gonna, like, how are they gonna manipulate if it's a boy or a girl?
Oh, you just try to clone enough to make, it gives you at least 4 or 5. We'll talk about that after I get done. The fossil record. This is not a definition you have to know. The fossil record is just a record of fossils. Nothing past that. We have 2 types of dating. Relative, radioactive. Miss Allen, I have missed you. Just because I get to believe you. What do you believe relative dating is?
Not what I think it
Like-
is, but.
They date their sister, like the
Related.
relative.
Like sister,
It is some.
Instinct.
The Alabama
sister,
stuff.
brother, and cousin, and cousin.
No, it's not incest, you boneheads.
You're like you said incest.
You guys are insane. Relative dating. Relative dating is, think of it as around, but not exact. It's around, but it's not exact. Did I skip one?
No.
Oh, no, I'm straight. I'm good. Relative dating is, when I say it's all relative, you know what? Ms. McGibbon, you're the ELA. When we talk about relative, what does that mean?
means like it's kind of in the same classification, it's not exact, it's just all kind of related, kind of associated with that part.
Yes,
Okay.
that is. I couldn't think of the words of. That's why I'm glad I asked you. It is the idea. The biggest word I was going to use was estimated. Located, estimated age. The exact age can never be determined. We are just relative dating is when we're looking at a layer. Like let's pretend that this whole periodic table is rock. Each one of these is a different layer. When we say relative dating, we look wherever we found our fossil, and we try to measure what the dates were around it. So this would be a different age than this would be, because when rocks are made, it's just a bunch of sediment that gets packed down tightly. So they all have, the word is striations. Striation means horizontal differences. So if we were striated, all your rocks essentially look like this. And each one of these, like the rings of a tree, is a different date than the last.
You've seen where they do core samples, and they dig down things, and they pull up the core samples, and you see the layers, that's how they can determine relative age.
Then we get to, like I said, relative dating. We get to radioactive dating. That is your exact, that is your perfect half-life, different element. That is your bless you. That is your perfect. The reason why we call it a half-life is because it takes half of its life to actually decay. Carbon, which is what the entire world is based off of, is the, I think it's carbon 14. Carbon 14 is an isotope of actual carbon. It is what we use for our radioactive dating. Its half-life is like 600 years, something like that. 635, I can't remember the exact number. But that is what we use to measure just about everything. We can measure the earth, we can measure the ground, we can measure the air around us. all with carbon dating.
Okay, and dating, just to make sure y'all's head is right, dating is like the date, not dating like dating each other. It's like date,
Oh.
like the date. So you're dating it, dating is a verb in this sense, like we're dating this, so relative dating is like, you know, the date, is what it means.
I can't believe y'all said relative dating was dating your cousin.
That's what I was thinking.
Fight y'all.
Is that yardstick for instance, is that why there's tape on it? Yeah,
'Cause
cause
I'm-
you did the second, it's
I
like
know.
there. Okay, so I can do that.
Oh, goodness. That's really great.
I'm gonna I had to tape it up again. I was messing around with it.
Wow, that scared me.
It should have. I'm
It
glad
made
nobody
me
got hurt.
strong, though.
Good dick, Walton.
Oh, you actually.
Stable daughter. Now, when I say it has a stable daughter, I mean
We're
it's
talking about
half-life. So if our radioactive dating is already using half-life, what is a stable daughter? What is it? A daughter is what of her mother? She's
Offspring.
blank of her mother, blank of her father.
The
Have one brother, have one
child.
So what would half of a half be?
brother.
A fourth. That's what your stable daughter cell does. It measures about 300 years, something like that.
They said dating.
Radioactive decay, stable daughter.
Did you
Go
just
get
make
it
the
sworn.
Man, that hurt me. Welcome. Oh. Hey. Should have waited because now my lesson's almost done.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? My lesson's almost over with. All right, so radioactive decay occurs at a constant exponential and geometric rate. When we say exponential, what do you think I mean? When something grows exponentially, what does it do?
Out of control.
That's a very good answer. Out of control. It keeps growing.
So you can look at this real quick.
Yes.
I don't know if you tried to draw with a stick person,
Me?
but it's just really.
No, I didn't try to draw that. Been awesome if I did though.
laser green?
There's just
Does everybody have the green man on theirs?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a half man thing.
Oh, it's just a stick with it. It's like I was trying to draw a flower.
Oh, you know, I started to say, you were probably drawing something on the board and that screen capture.
Yeah, I forget about that a lot.
You should do that.
It's smarter
Like
than you,
everything to
exactly.
see how many people notice it.
And
Right. Any questions?